You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day one.
Donald Trump has successfully moved the Overton window in a way that is as dangerous for the future of democracy in this country as anything else.
This is what Vout and Project 2025 wanted.
He's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
They control the Congress, they control the White House, and they control the courts. And so, of course, they're massively overreaching. And yes, they are getting away with it right now.
This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about.
The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. They really are the enemy of the people.
What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you.
Protesters in Philadelphia, state capitals in California, Minnesota, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana, and others showed up to oppose Trump, Musk, and Project 2025.
The US and President Trump has overseen America's largest military parade in decades as nationwide protests take place against his leadership.
Demonstrations are happening right across the United States today to oppose the Trump administration.
Two visions of America. On a day the country's deepening divide was there for all the world to see.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf, and you are watching Logically Left right here, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. It's Monday, and got a hell of a show today. So, as usual, we have Donald Trump basically admitting that, stupid people like me, but smart people, not so much. I mean, he's a guy who loves the uneducated, okay? The undereducated, okay, or whatever he said. I've got that video too. But anyway, I've got that. That is an amazing admission here. And by the way, like, people who are not college educated, that doesn't mean they're stupid, right? But he sure believes that they are. Oh yes. But anyway, we've got that story. We've got a Fox News host that's a little bit of trouble for calling to murder homeless people. Yes, that's right. The party of pro-life is like, homeless people, let's just kill them. Yes. But he's really sorry about it now, though, after he got caught. Then we've got more FAFO from Trump voting farmers. Oh, boy. And then a racist pastor is saying, if you're a good Christian man, you need to have the talk with your kids. Really, the talk, when I think of the talk, I think of like birds and bees and stuff like that. No, apparently his talk is black people are violent. So you need to watch out for that. Amazing stuff here. Unsurprising, but nonetheless, you got... If you would have told me 10 years ago that this kind of stuff would be mainstream, okay, and that just Republicans would be saying that stuff, murder homeless people, and watch out for them blacks, you know what I'm saying? I'd have been like, no. I mean, come on, there's always been, yes, a racist undercurrent, and yes, people hating homeless people, but they're not going to be openly saying this crap, are they? Is that it's happening now. It's happening. Okay. They're just, the masks have all been ripped off. They've ripped off their own hoods. Okay. And this isn't about them being exposed. No, because being exposed means that they don't want people to hear it. What they're doing is they're just openly saying these things. Just openly saying these things, wanting people to hear it. And so, yeah, they're taking their own masks and hoods off and exposing the disgusting people that they are. Okay, It really is. It's bad. It's things are not good. The future is stupid. And by the future, I mean today. But again, going back to what I would tell the fresh-faced young political podcaster of 2015, that was me at the time, who still didn't have hair, by the way, because you know, I just follically challenged. That's really it. But like, all right, you know, this is gonna happen. The future is gonna be even like it's gonna be horrible. And I'd be like, no. Oh well, I was wrong. Turns out people do have a capacity to be just horrible, just horrible, and that's what we're doing today. That's what that's what the show has become. Instead of pushing for a progressive future, talking about health care and all that wonderful stuff, the stuff that I would like to talk about: healthcare, taking care of the poor, making our country a better place to live. Instead, we're just documenting all the horrible, racist, anti-poor crap that comes out of the right wing. And that's unfortunate. It's really a loss for everybody here that we no longer are able to hope for a better future because we're so busy trying to stop all of the horrible shit going down today. It really is bad. But anyway, with that said, rant off. Let's go into Trump admitting that you know what, smart people not really in favor of me. I see.
Smart people don't like me, and they don't like what we talk about.
That was President Donald Trump accidentally admitting what he actually thinks about, I think, his voters. Because if smart people don't like you, then where does that leave the people that do like you? I'm just asking. It's a good question. All right. I think it's a fair question given the context. Okay. Now, what about the context? It's only a 4-second clip. Show me the context. Well, okay. He was talking about Tyler Robinson, the suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which, again, I have already talked about is a tragic thing. I don't believe in political assassinations. I think that's horrible. But anyway, that person that had murdered Charlie Kirk was not a trans person, was not a leftist. Okay, he was reportedly a far-right fan of Nick Fuentes and his so-called Groyper army. Oh my God, that's a rabbit hole I don't really want to go into, but perhaps might have to at some point. But anyway, he regularly clashed with Charlie Kirk. Nick Fuentes did, and look, the reason, by the way, that the Groyper Wars had happened on the right is because, and Charlie Kirk was central to that. Okay, Charlie Kirk versus Nick Fuentes. Fuentes thought, I think Charlie Kirk is too moderate. Yeah. So that's why that happened. But anyway, now Trump added in this statement, okay, that it must have been traumatic because the parents are conservative people, supposed to be very nice people living in Utah, and then the father turns in the son. He said, "Boy, that's a tough deal." Again, why does that have to? What does that have to do with, smart people not liking him and not liking what they talk about? I don't know, but again, if you've ever listened to Donald Trump, you would know that his brain just hops around to different things. Okay, I mean, I have ADHD, right? So I'm familiar with hopping around to different things, but usually there's some sort of connection here between the stuff that he's talking about that you can kind of go, oh, okay, that's how this is related, right? I can't figure out how, smart people don't like me is related to the stuff that he's talking about when it comes to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I don't understand. But anyway, look, he continued. Actually, I asked somebody in the FBI, how often does that happen? Knowing even the guilt that a father will turn in or parents will turn in the son. And he said, quote unquote, almost never. Look, there doesn't really seem to be any numbers behind that, so you can't really fact check that. We really don't know how often children are turned in to the police by their parents. I'm not really sure if that's a statistic that anybody tracks. We do track the demographics. We do track the education level of voters. We do track that kind of stuff. And look, Donald Trump, to get back to his original point, you know what? He actually does better with people with less formal education. In fact, here he is celebrating that fact.
We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
I mean, there it is, right? I'm not. Now, here's the thing. I am not saying Trump voters are stupid. No. I'm actually saying that they're less formally educated. Okay? That means not really college degrees. Okay? And so, look, when you don't have a college degree, there are certain things that you do not know. For example, like history, or they might not be that knowledgeable about politics, and might not know how to do critical thinking or how to spot fake news. And I think that's really important, how, you have a lot of people in this country that are very susceptible to fake news, to misinformation, and don't have that ability or haven't been really taught or encouraged to do critical thinking. It seems like that thing, that lack of ability has really gotten this country in a lot of trouble. Okay. And so they also might not know when people are lying to them. Also, I would say pretty relevant. Now, I wouldn't call that stupid. I would think I'd call that ignorance. And here's the thing about ignorance that I've said for a long time, that I've always believed. Ignorance can be fixed. Ignorance can be remedied, and you can do so with knowledge. Now, of course, you have to, as the person being educated, be open to learning new things and to be able to cast aside previously held beliefs that are not backed up by factual information. Okay? You have to be able to set those aside, like, and admit that, like, it turns out that I was wrong about this thing. Okay, well, I will now accept that the new information that is true and that is provable over what I previously believed. Now, that is a difficult thing to do. I mean, and that's because human beings are hardwired to reject information that makes them uncomfortable. We know that. Or even fearful. Okay? Especially fearful. Okay? And fear is a pretty big predictor of being conservative, being a Republican, because the conservatives fear change. They do. That's the whole point of conserving. Okay? They also prefer hierarchies. Okay? Established hierarchies. And some fear people who are different or who have different belief systems. And I am, of course, speaking in generalities, of course. There are very educated conservatives. In fact, you have a lot of Republican politicians that have college degrees. So, yeah. And look, a lot of Republicans in Congress, for example, they have law degrees, business degrees, etc. So they are formally educated. Okay? And here's the thing, right? Years ago, it actually used to be the fact that college-educated voters, who often would make more money, all right, they were more likely to vote for Republicans. Why? Tax cuts. They wanted tax cuts. And that makes sense, right? That's logical. But now, especially after Trump came on the scene, well, I mean, look, Trump lost educated people. Okay, now a majority of them voted for people like Joe Biden, for example, or Kamala Harris, and ended up gaining non-college educated white males. All right. So that's important too, because broken down demographically, you have non-college educated people of other races that did not shift towards Republicans. They stayed the same. Women, black people, Hispanics voted similarly than, than what they always had, regardless of their educational background, which tended to be voting for Democrats. But non-college educated white men, they went for Trump. So we know exactly who Trump is talking about. White men. That's it. White, non-college educated men. So now when he says he loves the uneducated, he's talking about the white dudes without the college degrees, who are his biggest backers. And the ones, ironically, most likely to be harmed by his particular policies. Okay, aside from, of course, Hispanic voters, black voters, etc. Look, these people are not exactly rich, okay? People without college degrees tend to make less money overall compared to those who have college degrees. Those people tend to be hit hardest by the tariffs, while in general being helped the least by Trump's massive tax cuts. All right. Now, that said, there are a few careers, obviously, that do not require a formal education that pays pretty well. For example, skilled trades. All right. So skilled trades, but skilled trades do require certification and formal training. And so what I'm talking about are the jobs that someone could get right out of high school. Okay. Those are the jobs that really don't tend to pay a whole lot. And it's the voters who hold those jobs that are, young white males. They actually used to support Democrats, but flipped over to Donald Trump. Again, 50% of voters with family incomes under $50,000 supported Donald Trump in 2024, while 48% voted for Kamala Harris. And so, look, one of the reasons that he harped on the economy, remember, he talked about, I'm going to lower grocery prices. I'm going to lower the price of prescription drugs. I'm going to lower this. I'm going to lower that. And people believed him. and that's getting back to the, I'm not really, I'm a low information voter. And so I don't really know the reality of the situation. I don't know. Trump says he's going to do all this stuff. Okay. I guess I'm going to vote for him. And of course, it turned out to not be true. And look, we know that a majority of the people who voted for Donald Trump are white young men without formal education. Not just young men, but just white men in general. Okay, this is who Donald Trump's talking about. So now, in response to the video, okay, Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett posted this. She said, I agree. So, does MAGA know what this means? He thinks of them? That's a good question. It's a fair question. In response, the Trump White House, through its spokesperson, Abigail Jackson, told the Daily Beast, quote, all three of Jasmine Crockett's brain cells are infected with Trump derangement syndrome. This is the official White House spokesperson literally calling a black woman, a black representative, stupid. That's what Trump thinks of black women. Honestly, I mean, it's not like it's not like that statement wouldn't have been approved. No, that's exactly what Trump would have said, because he said stuff that is similar to that for a long time. Remember, he tends to focus on black women and call them dumb. He does not think that they are smart. He thinks that black women only got their jobs because of DEI and affirmative action. He's racist. I mean, that's it. That's an old school racist stereotype. All right? And that they all sleep their way to the top or something. In reality, DEI, people they end up having the same education levels, the same grade point averages, all that stuff. Than, the white people that they're competing against, right, for those jobs. DEI and affirmative action, those programs were set up to ensure that these qualified black people, of which there are, again, many qualified black people, are not passed over for the fact that they are black. Okay? Again, they're just as qualified, but a lot of them do end up getting passed over because they are black. They're passed over for positions or even promotions because of their skin color. So it's pretty telling that this was the response. Okay. And again, to somebody pointing out that Trump actually does think the people that support him are stupid. Okay. Oh yeah, the smart people don't like me. But apparently stupid people love me. He doesn't have to say it for that to be the implication. And so, hey, he said it. He's going to deny it. But that's exactly what he meant. Okay. Moving on. Oh, he is so intimidated by any woman, let alone a black woman, that is obviously much, much smarter than him. Yeah, I mean, Jasmine Crockett is awesome. So, 100% on that one. Notice how he never says anything like that about a man, even a black man. Okay, and so he doesn't go in that kind of just horrific attack against white people. So that, yeah, old school racist, and we know that going back to his past too. All right, moving on. Let's go to Brian Kilmeade. Oh boy. Fox host Brian Kilmeade is feeling real sorry after calling for the wholesale murder of homeless people.
You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right. I would say this. We're not voting for the right people.
Oh, okay. And wow, there it is. Flippantly advocating for the murder of homeless people. Yeah. And yet, apparently, we're supposed to believe that it is the left that is violent and the right is pro-life. That doesn't really sound very pro-life, does it? Now, he did get a lot of backlash for this online, of course. Representative Don Beyer of Virginia tweeted this. He said, America's homeless population includes over 1 million children and tens of thousands of veterans, many of whom served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Nobody deserves to be murdered by the government for mental illness or poverty. These Fox hosts are calling for mass murder. It's sick. Shannon Watts writes, Brian is advocating for extrajudicial killings on Fox, yet Matthew Dowd was fired by MSNBC for pointing out Charlie Kirk's dangerous rhetoric. This moral asymmetry in the media and online is destroying democracy. Yeah, what Matthew Dowd said, by the way, was just pointing out, Charlie Kirk has said a lot of inflammatory things. And, well, that can cause people to be violent towards those groups that you're demonizing. That's really all he said, and he got fired for that. And yet Brian Kilmeade, not really gonna, face any consequences for this one. But anyway, Sarah Longwell, who's the founder and publisher of The Bulwark, a conservative outlet, wrote, my God, what is happening? Well, it is a Fox News host going full mask off. That's what that is. They're just exposing their real thoughts, okay? Understand, they believe that homeless people are not really human, okay? They're all violent and criminal and mentally ill, etc. But they're not. That is not true. And contrary to what some people believe, okay, they actually are not refusing help for no reason. Because I see this every time I talk about homelessness, right? I get these people in my comment sections that are like, they just want to be homeless. They just want to stay on the streets and do drugs. That's what they want to do. They don't want to help. Now, hold on here. There is a case of where people will, be offered space at a shelter and they'll be like, no, dog, I'm all right. Why would they refuse that? Why would they rather stay in their tents? Well, one of the biggest reasons happens to be privacy. Yes, privacy. There's a lot of shelters. In fact, I think all these shelters are pretty communal. Okay. And so there is absolutely no privacy. You are sharing space with others. You're sharing rooms with others. And look, in a lot of cases, you have people that, there are scuffles between these people. There's sometimes violence. There's theft. There's other issues, okay? There's stringent rules in these shelters. For example, pets, not allowed. A lot of people who are homeless have animals. And, of course, anybody who, loves their animal is not going to give them up, And so they would rather not be in the shelter. Not only that, but you have a lot of shelters being run by religious nonprofits that have additional rules in place. I know I've talked about some of them that would require you to go to basically religious services. So you're required to do religious services in order to stay in some of these shelters. Now, some people might ask, well, why does that matter? That'd still be better than staying out in the street, right? But you got to understand that there are many homeless people that are actually LGBTQ, members of the LGBTQ community that were kicked out from their homes. These are teenagers, these are younger people kicked out of their homes because of their identity, because of who they are. And these organizations do not want these people unless they renounce who they are, unless they renounce their identities. And so that matters. And again, to continue here, the idea that homeless people, as we're talking about, things that are true and things that are not true, well, you have this idea that homeless people, they're all mentally ill drug addicts. That's not true either. Only about a third of all homeless people, according to the group United to End Homelessness, are either mentally ill or have substance abuse problems. In fact, here's the reality. According to a demographic survey that was done as part of the UCI cost study, the top reasons why people become homeless actually have to do with socioeconomic reasons. The top two causes were finding a job that paid a sustainable wage and finding housing that's affordable. Simply, they cannot afford a place to live. They cannot afford a home. And so they end up becoming homeless. Yeah, that's right. Now, over 75% cited these issues as to what caused them to fall into homelessness. That's important. Again, not only that, but a common trope here is, they just refuse to work. Why don't they just get a job? Many of these people already do work. In fact, I'll give you the numbers here. They work, but they cannot afford shelter. For example, according to a 2021 study by the University of Chicago, an estimated 53% of people living in homeless shelters and 40% of unsheltered people had jobs. They had jobs. They either worked full or part-time, but don't make enough money to afford housing. Here you are. This shows how much they make, and it's not very much. It's not very much, and you can see the years, okay? And the cost of housing has only gone up, while wages have not. And so here you have these people that are making very, very little, even though they work, sometimes, again, full or part-time, and they just cannot afford housing. That's the reality. And yet these are the same people that Brian Kilmeade callously said, let's just kill him. Let's kill him. I mean, look, if you're a person who has any semblance of, I don't know, humanity, you would be furious. And a lot of people are. Okay? But I also know that so many people, unfortunately, agree with him because they don't believe that homeless people are people. They don't believe it. They believe the lies. They believe the dehumanization of homeless people that the far right, as well as our capitalist culture, has spread about them. And look, this is not to leave the Democrats out of this, because there are plenty of Democrats, too, that have been very callous towards homeless people and have spread these very same sorts of ideas about the homeless, okay? But what's important here is we can fix this issue. We can fix this issue. We can fix homelessness. And it's not that hard. You just have to give people homes, right? But the problem is, we as a society have chosen not to. That's it. And why? Why would we as a society do that? Well, it's because of the people running this society, okay? It is because of capitalism, okay? The existence of homeless people is allowed by our system to perpetuate because the capitalist class, the owner-donors, want them to exist. Why would they want that? Because they want workers to be too afraid to stand up for themselves. Too afraid of the fear of losing their jobs and then losing their homes. And then becoming demonized like all of the other homeless people. That's the reality. That is the uncomfortable truth as to why we, even though we have the resources and the ability to do so, have not solved homelessness. There are people that want this. Again, there are more than enough homes to house everyone. And where there are not, we can build more. We have the ability. But instead of doing that, Kilmeade and other people like him are like, nah, just kill them all. Nah. Now, of course, after the backlash he received, he apologized. On Sunday, he said, quote, "We were discussing the murder of Irina Zarutska in Charlotte and how to stop these kinds of attacks by homeless, mentally ill assailants, including institutionalized or jailing such people so they cannot attack again. During that discussion, I wrongly said they should get lethal injections." Involuntary lethal injections. Murder. You said murder. That's what you did. That's what you advocated for, buddy. But he said, "I apologize for that extremely callous remark. I am obviously aware that not all mentally ill homeless people act as a perpetrator did in North Carolina, and that so many homeless people deserve our empathy and compassion." Let me just know that, Charlie Kirk, for example, he talked about empathy being basically weakness, okay? And there are so many people on the right that feel the same way. They think, oh, no, empathy, it's this new age term. And it's weakness. We don't like that. No, we don't like the idea of treating people with compassion and, humanity. Well, I mean, that's how you feel. Again, non-apology. All right, non-apology. That's what that is. Obviously, you weren't aware of that, or else you wouldn't have said the thing that you said. Okay? And this isn't just like, oh, I didn't think before I spoke. No, you did. You just said that what you were thinking. That's what you said. Because that's how you really feel. Okay? Look, the majority of homeless people, as I mentioned before, they're not violent criminals. They're people down in their luck. Okay? But if this is what your mind automatically goes to as a solution, then you might want to do some real self-reflection, especially if you consider yourself to be a good Christian. Okay. You know, it's weird that half of my job, or it feels like most of my job here, is to try to teach people to care about other people, and I don't understand why that's a thing that has to be done. I don't understand how there's so many people who are adults that don't understand that maybe we should care about other people. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. Okay. Anyway. I have faced homelessness. I've never had an addiction. My husband and my mother had died closely together. I'm so sorry. Financially devastating me. I slept in the graveyard one night because it was the safest. And your story is similar to what so many people end up going through. I mean, some of the big reasons that people deal with losing their house or their home is because of a death in the family, or in your case, multiple deaths. And that is the situation that, I mean, we shouldn't have to be explaining this to people, but there's such a lack of understanding and such a lack of empathy towards people who are homeless. Automatically they see a homeless person and think, well, it must be your fault. You're a druggie, or you did this, you've messed up, you did that, and you're refusing to help yourself. When in reality, it's situations like this. It's situations like this person's in the chat that have led to, I don't have the income now to be able to afford my home, and I've got nowhere to go because I have lost the people that have helped me, and I just can't afford to live here anymore. And that is the reality that so many people have ignored, and what so many people just will never understand. There are so many people right now in this country that are one paycheck or one bad situation away from losing everything and becoming homeless, and yet nobody seems to have empathy for them. Nobody seems to have empathy, and nobody seems to have understanding, and we have no desire as a society to help those people get back on their feet. We need to tax the ultra rich only 10% more, and this issue is fixed. Yeah. Exactly. And I do think, though, we need more of a more of a culture change too around helping people, because right now we have so much of an individualistic culture that blames people for unfortunate circumstances like this and puts all the onus on that person, even though the circumstances are not in their control. It really is just incredibly disheartening. We can help everyone as a society. We just have to, I guess we have to get these leaders to do so. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, hey, promises made, promises kept, right? Well, Trump voting farmers in Pennsylvania are apparently fed up with the labor shortage that their president that they voted for caused. Okay, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the U.S. agricultural workforce fell by about 155,000 workers, about 7%, between the months of March and July, just of this year. Now, the Pew Research Center found that total immigrant labor fell by about 750,000 from January through July. So this year, I mean, we have just seen a massive exodus of migrant workers, okay? Migrant workers who overwhelmingly worked in the agricultural sector. So that's not a good sign, considering how, again, the majority of agricultural labor has been performed by immigrants, both documented and undocumented. Now, to be fair, even if they had the workers, these farmers would also no longer have the markets, thanks to Donald Trump and his trade wars and his tariffs. So that said, those things, both of them are putting the squeeze on farmers like John Painter, a 3-time Trump voter. In fact, he said, quote, "The whole thing is screwed up. We need people to do the jobs Americans are too spoiled to do." Ah, yes, Americans too spoiled with fairer wages and steady work to do farm labor. Here's the funny thing. I've talked about in a different segment here some time ago that in the 1960s they did a program to take all these these students, people that are athletic, high school students, and put them to work in the fields. That and to replace the immigrant labor. How'd that turn out? It was a spectacular failure. Okay. The vast majority of these students walked off the job because it was hard, because it was very low paying. I mean, here's the thing about farm labor. Not only is it incredibly difficult, 12 to 16-hour days in the grueling heat 7 days a week for not a lot of cash, but it's also seasonal, okay? So you're working your ass off, okay? You're doing that for like 3 months, 4 months at a time, okay? And then once the harvest is over, that work is gone. You're no longer going to make any money. No work until the next harvest. Now, how are you going to survive? Well, you don't. And according to people like John Painter and some of these other farmers, well, that's not really my problem. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. I just need you to pick my veggies till I don't need you no more, till the harvest is over. Then I don't give a damn. Oh, all right. Well, now here's the thing, though. Okay, here's the thing. Obviously, the work does need to get done. Obviously. I mean, dairy farmer Tim Wood, for example, a member of the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau Board of Directors, said, look, people do not understand that if we don't get more labor, our cows don't get milked and our crops don't get picked. Now, dairy farms work kind of differently than some of the other farms because they do work year-round, okay? But some of the other farmers, they're still seasonal, and that's a big problem. And I've worked myself for a dairy farm, and it is difficult work. It is very difficult work. It's very physical, and again, pretty low paying. But anyway, those facts, perhaps, and I'm just, and people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but perhaps you should have thought about those things, those considerations before voting for the mass deportation candidate. I mean, it's not like there isn't a reason that farmers turn to undocumented labor. They do. And for one, there is red tape. There is red tape in hiring. People who are, not undocumented, people who are legally allowed to work here through the various visa programs like GH2A, for example. But here's the other thing. Labor costs. Yeah, so there are people that do not want to pay those labor costs to bring people over on those H2As, which does cover seasonal farm workers, by the way. They're expensive. And so farmers are like, I'd rather do, the undocumented workers. I mean, Painter himself has admitted that he knowingly hired an undocumented worker. Okay? In fact, there was a couple and their family. So this couple from Mexico, he was like, oh, you're undocumented? Yeah, bring your family. Come work for me. For the last 2 years, by the way. Now, what happened to them is, well, the husband got pulled over, was handed over to ICE, and then deported. So, and this is after he ended up spending about a year in detention. Okay. Now, his wife and children, of course, followed him. Obviously, they went with their family out of the country. So he's gone. Now, this guy says, look, I understand that he was here illegally, meaning that you, again, knew that and hired undocumented labor, which should be, I mean, you should get in trouble for that, but of course you don't. You don't get in trouble for this. The worker gets in trouble for this, leaving these farmers a loophole to where they hire a bunch of undocumented labor and then get mad and vote against undocumented labor. So, I mean, there you go. But anyway, he said, I understand that he was here illegally, but I also understand that he's human. They want the American dream and they want to work. Wait, hold on. Where was that understanding at the ballot box? Where was that understanding? Because yes, he's right. They are human. They do come over here. They're doing very difficult work and for very little pay. They're working hard. They bust their asses. I've worked alongside them before. So I know from personal experience. Where was that understanding? Where was that? Where was the understanding that they're human beings before you voted for the mass deportation guy? I mean, come on, man. Now, Painter, after losing his worker from Mexico and their family, eventually did hire another couple from Guatemala, but said, I'm very disappointed in Trump's immigration policy. Oh, is that it? Is that it? Now, he added, if they're here working and paying their taxes, which the mass majority of undocumented immigrants actually do, they do pay state and local taxes. Okay? And so that's what we're talking about when we say that they pay taxes, right? They do pay their taxes. And in some cases, right, in a lot of cases, they also pay into things like Social Security. They'll never get anything back from it, but they pay into it. And they floated up our system and, again, don't get anything for it. But Painter said this, they are not the troublemakers that we should be focusing on getting rid of. It's not right what they're doing. All of us. If we look back in history, including the president, we have somebody that came to this country for the American dream. Well, here's the thing. Trump said that this is what he was going to do, mass deportation, and now he's doing it. Yes, but you don't understand. He said he'd only go after the bad ones. True, he did say that. But did you notice? You might have missed this one. In fact, pretty sure that you did. Did you missed the fact that he considers all of them to be the bad ones? So, from his perspective, he's not lying. I am going after the bad ones. I just think they're all bad. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, look, it's no secret, if you pay attention, that he was intentionally demonizing all non-white immigrants. So that's what he was doing. And this guy apparently refused to see it. He refused to see it. Where was this understanding before? Where was this empathy before? Simple. It wasn't there until Trump's actions started affecting you. And there you go. I solved it, figured it out. Wasn't that hard now, was it? Okay. One more story here. Oh boy. Joel Webbin. Yeah, this is somebody that I haven't really talked a whole lot about. But, well, that's going to change. Let's do it. A far-right Texas pastor is urging parents to have the talk with their kids. And no, I do not mean that one.
If you're a Christian white parent who loves the Lord and loves your children, that you need to have the talk. The talk that we're referencing is the talk that takes your children according to their maturity at the proper time, the appropriate time, and says, there are certain parts of town that you cannot go. And there are certain people that you cannot be around.
Yep.
Right? If there's someone who is black in our church, and they've been in our church, and we know them, and they love the Lord Jesus Christ, great. We're not talking about that person, but we're talking about when you go into a crowd of people. If you go into a crowd of strangers, and they're white strangers, there's some danger. If they're black strangers, there is 30 times more danger. Them's the facts. And it is actually a failure of your parental duty. White parents, please hear me. If you teach your children growing up, if you lie to them and say, all people and all races of people in our country are the same. They are not. You are actually depriving your child of factual, truthful information that could save their life.
No, them's not the facts, okay? Where is this person getting the figure that you are 30 times more likely to be victimized by a black person? I mean, I'm going to give you one guess before, well, okay. He pulled it out of his ass, okay? That's where you get that. That's where you get that. Okay, here's the thing. According to FBI crime data from 2019, okay, there were 566 black-on-white murders compared to 246 white-on-black murders. Now, some people will take that and love to point out, oh my God, did you see that? Look at all the black-on-white violence. It's an epidemic. It's a race war. Look at how they're targeting white people. In reality, no. See, if you're going to do a crime, you're probably going to do it to the people who are in your location geographically, okay? And white people in America, we're everywhere, okay? So, I mean, according to the census, there were 204.3 million white Americans in 2020 and only 41.1 million black Americans. So we outnumber black people, okay? Meaning that black people are going to be more likely to be around white people. There are more of us, simply. And as such, yes, we are more likely to be the victims of crime, okay, because there are more of us. It's just the economy of scale, all right? Now, so here's the thing about that, though, right? White people, we tend to be most often victimized by other white people. Yes, again, intraracial, right? Between 1980 and 2008, the Department of Justice found that about 84% of white homicide victims were killed by white offenders. More recent FBI data shows similar trends, with 81% of white victims killed by white people in 2018. So, and look, a similar amount of black people were killed by other black people. And so, yet, you know, we never seem to hear about white-on-white violence the same way that we hear about so-called black-on-black violence, okay? And there is a reason for that. Black-on-black violence, just a racist trope, okay? Again, happens the same rate as white-on-white violence, but you, again, never hear about that. I wonder why that is. But anyway, most crime we know is intra-racial. And most crime tends to happen in low-income areas. This is all socioeconomic. Disadvantaged communities oftentimes experience higher rates of crime and violence due to factors like income inequality, low education, and a lack of access to resources like jobs and investment. There is no racial factor to this. And look, the same factors I just mentioned also drive crime in white areas as well. It's white, black, and other communities. Any place that there is low income, you're going to have higher rates of crime. So this is not because of, there's something wrong with the blacks, you know what I'm saying? That's why they're more criminal. No, they're not more criminal, okay? The idea that, we need to have a talk about these violent black people is just nothing more than racism, period. Look, in reality, speaking of crime, we're actually more likely to be robbed by the people that we work for, okay, than accosted by mobs of violent blacks that we don't know, crowds of black people. What? No, the biggest crime in this country? Wage theft. Wage theft costs us billions of dollars. Okay, wage theft. That's it. Now, why doesn't anybody want to talk about wage theft? Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody. Maybe it's because, I don't know, rich people, powerful people, they're the ones that happen to engage in wage theft. Okay, more likely. And what do? I think they get their little racist lackeys, like this guy, who's basically discount Matt Walsh, okay? This guy is Matt Walsh from Temu, all right? To go and to spread hate and division. And why? It's so that the working class of all races, because that's what, anybody who works for a living, black, white, Asian, it don't matter. If you work for a living, you get a paycheck, you are a member of the working class, okay? It's to get it so that the working class does not get ourselves together and organize to fight against the real problem. Rich people, the billionaires, the bosses, the people that are doing the wage theft. That's what's going on here. And so there you go. Rich people, the 1%, the ones who control corporate media, corporate America, those are the real problems. And yet they continuously try to put out racist garbage to try to distract us and to get us to fight with each other. That's the reality. And that is all that this person, look, this guy, discount Matt Walsh, all right, that's what he's out there to do, to make a name for himself, okay, to, by spreading this ridiculous racist division to get black and white people to fight each other so that his owner donors, his paymasters can continue to profit. All right. And there you go. Oh, it's one of my favorite dumb trolls on Facebook. Howdy, Danny. I see you, buddy. I see you, pal. How you doing today? You enjoying your day? You want a cookie? Need a passy? I love you, buddy. I love you. Keep going. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I got the fair number of haters and trolls. They're always fun for they're a good time. They're a good time. I always enjoy it. So please continue, troll away, have fun, and boost my engagement. You're only doing me a favor. Anyway, all right. So, let's see. They don't do empathy or caring about the little people. It's true. And trying to foment dissent and violence. Absolutely. There's no prosecution of corporate criminals. It's true. It's true. They never go after the people who are actually doing the real problems. I joined into the sound of discount Matt Walsh. My day is complete. Yeah, Matt Walsh from Temu. I gotta say, that is exactly what he looks like, though. I love it. All right, anyway. That's it. That's all I got for you today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/jeffwaldorf, or become a channel member. We're not funded by big corporations, not funded by dark money or big donors. In fact, basically Patreon and memberships and ads. And so that's that's why I'm not doing an ad read for Raid Shadow Legends or whatever else. And so, but it's really important here that I get across the fact that we do not get funded on progressive media, leftist media. It has absolutely no backing, no funding. And so if you can sign up for the cost of a cup of coffee every month and support independent progressive media, if you care about it, if you want the show to continue, if you want the show to grow, support us, support the show, sign up, become a patron, become a channel member, and really, support independent progressive media because we need it more than ever. And without funding, there's going to be a lot of channels, small channels, smaller channels like mine that won't be able to continue. And if that's the case, who's going to push back against all this right-wing garbage? Exactly. But anyway, thank you all. Have a great day. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody.